The warning lights flashed red across the control room of Earth Station Alpha. Captain Jake Morrison looked up from his morning coffee as the emergency signal filled the air. His dark hair was still messy from sleep, and his uniform jacket hung loose over his shoulders. "What do we have, Lisa?" Jake asked his second-in-command. Commander Lisa Brooks stood at the main computer screen, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight knot. Her blue eyes looked worried as she read the incoming message. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from deep space. It's not from any human ship." Jake felt his stomach drop. In his 5 years running the station, they had never received contact from aliens. Earth had been sending radio signals into space for decades, hoping someone would answer. Now it seemed someone finally had. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen filled with static, then cleared to show a face that was definitely not human. The being had purple skin that seemed to glow with its own light. Its eyes were large and silver, with no pupils that Jake could see. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through metal pipes. "Greetings, humans of the third planet. I am Speaker Vaxani of the Galactic Council. We have received your request to join our organization. Your application has been reviewed by the 12-member species." Jake and Lisa looked at each other. They had never sent any application to join anything. Earth's government had been trying to make contact with aliens for years, but they had no idea anyone was listening. The alien continued speaking. "The Council has decided to offer your species the trial of worthiness. One human representative must come to our station in the Andromeda sector. There, you will face 3 tests to prove that humans deserve to stand among the great species of the galaxy." The alien paused, and Jake thought he saw something like pity in those strange silver eyes. "We must warn you that no new species has passed these trials in over 3,000 years. The Council expects this to be a short process. Your representative should prepare for failure." The transmission ended, leaving Jake and Lisa staring at a blank screen. "Did that thing just insult our entire species?" Lisa asked. "I think it did," Jake replied. He walked over to the communication station and pressed the button to contact Earth. "Get me General Adams at Earth Command, Priority 1. While they waited for the connection, Dr. Sam Carter entered the control room. The scientist was a thin man with thick glasses and gray hair that stuck up in all directions. He always looked like he had just woken up, even at noon. "I heard the alarm," Sam said. "What's happening?" "We just got invited to join an alien club," Lisa told him. "But they think we're going to fail the entrance exam." Sam's eyes went wide. "Aliens? Real aliens contacted us?" "Play the message again," Jake ordered Dot as they watched the transmission. For the second time, Sam took notes on his tablet. When it finished, he looked up at Jake with excitement. "This is incredible! A galactic government with 12 different alien species. They must have technology beyond anything we can imagine. They also seem to think we're not good enough to join them." Jake pointed out. The communication system beeped, and General Adams appeared on screen. The old soldier's face was serious as always, his gray mustache neat and trimmed. "Captain Morrison, I just received your message. Are you telling me that aliens have made contact?" "Yes, sir. They want 1 human to come take some kind of test. If we pass, we get to join their galactic government. If we fail, well, they seem pretty sure we're going to fail." General Adams was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, this could change everything for humanity. We could gain access to alien technology, learn about other worlds, maybe even find new places for humans to live. But we need to choose the right person to represent us." "I'll go," Jake said without thinking. "Jake, no," Lisa said quickly. "This is too dangerous. We don't know anything about these aliens or their tests." "That's exactly why I have to go," Jake replied. "I'm the captain of this station. It's my job to make the hard choices." "General." Adams nodded slowly. "Captain Morrison, I appreciate your willingness to serve, but this decision needs to come from the highest levels of government. I'll contact the president immediately." 2 days later, Jake received his orders. He would represent humanity at the alien trials. The decision had been made quickly because the aliens had given them only 1 week to respond. Jake stood in the docking bay of Earth Station Alpha, looking at his ship. The Aurora was humanity's newest and fastest vessel, built for long distance travel. It was small compared to the alien ships they had seen in movies, but it was the best Earth could offer. Lisa stood beside him, checking the ship's systems one more time. All weapons are loaded and ready. Food supplies for 2 months. Emergency medical kit. Communication equipment to stay in contact with Earth. Thanks, Lisa. I know this isn't easy for any of us. Dr. Sam Carter came running up with a thick folder of papers. Jake, I've put together everything we know about space travel, alien contact, procedures, and basic physics. If these trials involve science, this might help. Lieutenant Amy Phillips, the station's communication officer, joined them. She was young, maybe 25, with red hair and freckles across her nose. Captain, I've set up a special frequency for you to contact us. No matter how far away you are, we should be able to hear you. Jake looked at his crew, his friends. They had worked together for years, and now he was leaving them to face unknown dangers alone. I want you all to know that whatever happens out there, I'm proud to represent humanity. We might be new to space travel compared to these aliens, but we have something they might not expect. What's that? Lisa asked. We never give up. Humans have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We've always found a way to keep going when others would quit. Maybe that's what they need to see. It climbed into the Aurora and started the engines. Through the window, he could see his crew watching him leave. Lisa gave him a military salute. Sam waved his folder of notes. Amy held up her radio, promising to keep the channel open. As the Aurora left the station and entered deep space, Jake thought about what lay ahead. The aliens had made it clear they expected him to fail. Their message had sounded bored, like they were going through the motions of a process they had done many times before, but Jake had noticed something in that alien's voice. It wasn't just boredom or superiority. There had been something else, something that sounded almost like sadness. As if the alien was sorry about what was going to happen. The more Jake thought about it, the more questions he had. Why had the Galactic Council decided to test humanity now? Why had no new species joined in 3,000 years? And why did that alien seem so sure that humans would fail? Jake set the Aurora's course for the coordinates the aliens had given him. It would take 3 weeks to reach their station, 3 weeks to prepare for whatever tests waited for him. As Earth grew smaller behind him, Jake made himself a promise. He would not just represent humanity in these trials. He would show these ancient aliens that humans were more than they expected. He would prove that sometimes the newest voice in the room had the most important things to say. The stars ahead looked cold and distant, but Jake felt a warm determination growing in his chest. The aliens thought this would be easy. They thought humans would fold under pressure like all the others. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 weeks in space had given Jake plenty of time to think. The Aurora moved silently through the darkness between stars, carrying him toward a meeting that could change the future of humanity. He had read Dr. Carter's notes so many times he could recite them from memory. He had practiced speeches and prepared answers to questions he hoped the aliens might ask. Nothing could have prepared him for his first sight of the Galactic Council Station. The structure was massive beyond anything humans had ever built. It stretched across space like a small moon, covered in towers and domes that glowed with soft blue light. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like insects around a flower. Some ships looked like Earth's vessels made of metal and glass. Others seemed to be grown rather than built, with smooth curves and organic shapes. Jake's hands shook slightly as he guided the Aurora toward the docking bay the aliens had told him to use. His ship looked like a toy compared to the giants around him. Some of the alien vessels were 10 times larger than anything humanity had ever launched into space. A voice came through his radio, speaking perfect English with a strange accent. Human vessel Aurora, this is docking control. Follow the blue lights to Bay 94. Do not deviate from the assigned path. Jake followed a line of blue lights that appeared in space. leading him into a huge opening in the station side. The docking bay was enormous, dizzily large enough to hold a dozen ships the size of the Aurora. Most of the other ships were empty, but Jake could see beings moving around in the distance. As soon as the Aurora touched down, Jake heard a mechanical sound outside his ship. Looking through the window, he saw that a clear tube had extended from the station wall to connect with his airlock. At least he would not have to worry about breathing the alien air. Jake put on his best uniform, the one he saved for special occasions back on Earth. He checked his appearance in the mirror one last time, then opened the airlock door. The alien waiting for him was unlike anything he had expected. It stood about 7 feet tall on 2 legs, but its skin looked like snake scales that changed color as it moved. Its head was long and narrow, with eyes that sat on the sides like a lizard. When it spoke, Jake could see rows of sharp teeth. "Human Captain Morrison," the alien said in that same accented English. "I am Protocol Officer Zektar of the Vorthan Collective. I will escort you to the council chambers." "Thank you," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm honored to be here." Zektar made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like a snake hissing. "Honor, yes, follow me, human." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered with pictures and displays showing the history of the 12 alien species. Jake saw images of great cities on distant worlds, huge battles in space, and scientific discoveries that humanity could not yet understand. One display showed a timeline of galactic history. Jake stopped to look at it, trying to understand the scale of what he was seeing. The newest member of the council had joined over 3,000 years ago. Some of the original species had been part of the organization for over 10,000 years. Impressive, is it not? Zektar asked. His scales had turned a darker color, and Jake wondered if that meant something. "Your species has been in space for perhaps 2 centuries. We have been traveling between stars since before your ancestors learned to use fire." "Everyone has to start somewhere," Jake said. Zektar's scales shifted to an even darker shade. "Indeed, and everyone ends somewhere as well." They passed groups of other aliens who stopped to stare at Jake as he walked by. He heard whispers in languages he could not understand, but the tone was clear enough. Some sounded curious, others amused. A few seemed almost sad, as if they were looking at something that was about to be destroyed. The council chambers were at the center of the station, behind massive doors that opened silently as they approached. Jake stepped inside and felt his breath catch in his throat. The room was huge, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up into darkness. 12 massive chairs were arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different type of alien body. Most of the chairs were occupied by beings that Jake could barely comprehend. The chair directly in front of him held the alien he had seen in the original transmission. Speaker Vexani looked even more impressive in person, her purple skin glowing brighter in the dim light of the chamber. To her left sat something that looked like a tree made of metal, its branches moving slowly as if blown by an unfelt wind. To her right was a creature that seemed to be made entirely of shadow, with only 2 glowing red eyes to show where its face might be. Jake tried to look at each council member, but some hurt his eyes to observe directly. One seemed to shift between different shapes every few seconds. Another appeared to be made of flowing water that somehow held a solid form. "Human Jake Morrison," Speaker Vexani's voice filled the chamber. "You stand before the Galactic Council, representatives of the 12 great species that govern this galaxy. You have come to attempt the trial of worthiness." "Yes," Jake said, his voice echoing in the vast space. "I'm here to represent humanity." "As you wish," Vexani replied. Jake noticed that her tone was different from the transmission. She sounded tired, almost bored. "The trials consist of 3 parts. The trial of wisdom will test your mental capabilities. The trial of strength will measure your physical and technological abilities. The trial of spirit will examine your character and leadership qualities." Another council member spoke, this one looking like a giant insect with crystal wings. "We should inform you that no species has successfully completed all 3 trials since the Helix Confederation joined us 3,000 217 years ago. Jake looked around the circle of alien faces. Something was wrong. Here, these beings were supposed to be judging him, testing his worthiness to join their elite group. But instead of looking eager or curious, they all seemed defeated. The metal tree creature spoke with a voice like wind through leaves. Perhaps we should explain the nature of your first trial now, to save time. Save time for what? Jake asked. There was a long silence. Several of the council members looked at each other, and Jake caught glimpses of expressions that seemed almost embarrassed. The trial of wisdom will take place in the archive of all knowledge, Vexani said finally. You will be presented with the puzzle of infinite paths, a problem that has challenged applicants for millennia. You will have 24 hours to find a solution. What happens if I can't solve it? Jake asked. Another council member, this one appearing to be made of living crystal, answered. Then your species will be denied membership in the council, and you will return to your homeworld. And if I do solve it? The silence that followed Jake's question was even longer than before. He could hear the hum of the station's machinery, the distant sound of ships moving through the docking bays, but no one spoke. Finally, the shadow being with red eyes said, No one has solved the puzzle of infinite paths in over 2,000 years. Jake felt something click in his mind. These aliens were not expecting him to succeed. They were not even hoping he would succeed. They were going through the motions of a test they knew he would fail, just like all the others before him, but there was something else in their voices, something that surprised him. They sounded almost sorry about it, as if they wished things could be different but knew they could not be. When do we start? Jake asked. Vexani's glow seemed to dim slightly. You may rest first if you wish. The trials are demanding. Ready now? Jake said. For the first time since entering the chamber, Jake saw something that might have been surprise on the faces around him. Several council members leaned forward in their chairs. Very well, Vexani said. Zektar will escort you to the archive. Human Jake Morrison, we wish you good fortune. As Jake left the chamber, he heard whispers starting behind him. The words were in alien languages he could not understand, but the tone was different now. Less bored, more interested, Zektar led him through more corridors, his scales now shifting between different colors rapidly. You surprised them, the alien said. How? Jake asked. Most applicants ask for time to prepare, to study, to delay the inevitable. You ask to begin immediately. Is that bad? Zektar stopped walking and looked at Jake with those reptilian eyes. I do not know. It has been so long since anyone tried to actually win. They walked the rest of the way in silence, but Jake's mind was racing. These aliens had been testing new species for thousands of years, watching them all fail. They had turned it into a routine, a ritual they performed without hope or expectation, but Jake had not come here to fail. He had come here to win, to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. And now he was beginning to understand that maybe, just maybe, these ancient aliens needed someone to win almost as much as humanity needed to succeed. The archive of all knowledge lay ahead, and with it the first real test of what humans could do when the entire galaxy expected them to fail. The archive of all knowledge was not what Jake had expected. Instead of rows of books or computer screens, the room was filled with floating spheres of light. Each sphere glowed with a different color, and Jake could somehow sense that each one contained vast amounts of information. Zektar led him to the center of the room, where a simple chair sat before a large, dark sphere that was not glowing like the others. This is the puzzle of infinite paths, Zektar explained. Touch the sphere, and the problem will be presented to you. You have 24 hours to find a solution. Jake looked around the room and noticed something odd. High above them, behind panels of dark glass, he could see the shapes of the council members watching. They had come to observe his failure personally. Are they always watching? Jake asked. Ze Katar's scales shifted to a dull gray color. They watch every trial. It is tradition. Jake sat in the chair and placed his hands on the dark sphere. Immediately, Information flooded into his mind. Not words or pictures, but pure knowledge that he somehow understood. The problem was enormous. Jake found himself looking at a galaxy filled with 1,000 different species, all with different needs, different resources, and different ideas about how society should work. Some species needed hot planets close to their stars. Others required cold worlds far from any sun. Some ate only plants, while others needed to hunt living creatures to survive. The challenge was to create a system that could keep all these species happy and peaceful while sharing the galaxy's resources fairly. Previous applicants had tried to design perfect mathematical formulas, complex government structures, and detailed laws that would solve every possible conflict. Jake studied the problem for hours, reading about failed solutions that had been attempted over thousands of years. Every approach seemed to make sense at first, but then fell apart when faced with the complexity of governing so many different kinds of beings. As the hours passed, Jake became aware that the council members were still watching from above. He could feel their eyes on him, waiting for him to give up like all the others. But Jake had grown up on Earth, where humans had been dealing with similar problems for thousands of years. Not on the scale of a galaxy, certainly, but the basic challenge was the same. How do you get different groups to work together when they want different things? Jake thought about the history lessons he had learned in school, ancient trade routes that connected different civilizations, the way cities had grown up around rivers and harbors where different peoples came together to exchange goods and ideas, the international organizations that had been formed after Earth's great wars to prevent future conflicts. None of these solutions had been perfect. There had always been problems, always disagreements, but they had worked well enough to allow different groups to live and trade together. Jake began to see the flaw in all the previous solutions. They had tried to create perfect systems that would prevent all conflicts, but conflict was not always bad. Sometimes disagreement led to new ideas, new solutions, new ways of doing things. Instead of trying to eliminate all problems, what if the system was designed to handle problems when they came up? Jake started working on a different kind of solution. Instead of one big government ruling everything, he designed a network of smaller groups that could work together when they needed to, but were free to live their own way most of the time. Trade routes would connect different species, allowing them to exchange not just goods but ideas. When conflicts arose, neutral meeting places would be available where representatives could talk through their problems. If two species could not share the same world, the system would help them find new places to live. Most importantly, the system would be designed to change and grow over time. New species could join easily and old rules could be updated when they stopped working. Jake worked through the night, refining his idea and testing it against the examples given in the puzzle. It was not perfect, but it was flexible. It could adapt to new situations and handle unexpected problems. When 24 hours had passed, Jake leaned back in his chair and took his hands off the sphere. The solution was complete. Zektar appeared beside him, looking surprised. "You have finished?" "Yes," Jake said. "Most applicants use all 24 hours and still do not complete a solution." Jake looked up at the observation windows above. The council members were leaning forward, their attention focused entirely on him now. "Present your solution," came Speaker Vexania's voice from hidden speakers in the room. Jake stood and placed his hands on the sphere again. This time, instead of receiving information, he sent his ideas into the device. The dark sphere began to glow with a soft white light. Above him, Jake could hear surprised voices speaking in alien languages. The tone was different from what he had heard before. Less bored, more interested. "Fascinating," said the voice of the crystal being. "He has not tried to eliminate conflict, but to manage it. His solution accepts that problems will arise," added the metal tree creature. "Most unusual." Zektar was staring at Jake with his reptilian eyes wide. "Human, what you have done. It has been over 2,000 years since anyone completed the puzzle of infinite paths. Did I solve it correctly?" Jake asked. "There is no correct solution," Zektar replied. "That is what makes it so difficult. You must create something new, something that has never been tried before. And you must convince the council that it could work. The chamber doors opened and Jake was escorted back to the council chambers. This time, the alien representatives were not sitting back in their chairs looking bored. They were all leaning forward, their attention focused on him completely. Speaker Vexani spoke first. Human Jake Morrison, your solution to the puzzle of infinite paths is ... unexpected. You have based it on concepts of trade, communication, and adaptation rather than control and order. Yes, Jake replied. That's how we do things on Earth. We're all different, but we find ways to work together. Your species has experience with this type of cooperation? Asked the shadow being with red eyes. Lots of experience, Jake said. We've been practicing for thousands of years. We don't always get it right, but we keep trying. There was a long silence in the chamber. Jake could see the council members looking at each other, and he sensed that some kind of communication was happening that he could not hear. Finally, Vexani spoke again. You have passed the trial of wisdom. This is ... significant. Jake felt a rush of excitement but tried to keep his expression calm. What happens next? Next is the trial of strength, said the insect creature with crystal wings. You will be tested in both personal combat and strategic command. When do we start? Jake asked ... again. That moment of surprise rippled through the chamber. Several council members exchanged what Jake was beginning to recognize as looks of interest rather than mere duty. Immediately, if you wish, Vexani said. Jake was escorted to a different part of the station, this one designed for physical challenges. The combat arena was a large circular room with walls that could change shape and create different environments. His first opponent was a Vorthan warrior, one of Zektar's people. The alien was much larger than Jake, with natural armor in the form of thick scales and claws that could cut through metal. The rules were simple. Defeat your opponent using any means necessary. Jake had trained in martial arts during his military service, but he knew he could not match the alien's natural strength and weapons. Instead, he would have to use his brain. The arena shifted to create a rocky landscape with boulders and cliffs. Jake's opponent charged straight at him. Expecting to end the fight quickly, Jake rolled to one side and grabbed a loose rock from the ground. As the Vorthan warrior turned to follow him, Jake threw the rock not at his opponent, but at a pile of boulders balanced on a cliff above. The rocks came crashing down, and the alien had to dodge quickly to avoid being crushed. While his opponent was distracted, Jake climbed onto a higher ledge and began throwing more rocks, forcing the warrior to take cover. Interesting, Jake heard one of the council members say through the arena speakers. He fights like prey that has learned to be dangerous. Jake continued using the environment against his opponent, turning the warrior's strength into a disadvantage in the rocky terrain. Eventually, the exhausted alien called for the match to end. Victory to the human, announced the arena's computer. Jake's second test was a space battle simulation. He was given command of a small fleet and told to defend a planet against a much larger enemy force. The enemy had better ships, more weapons, and twice as many vessels. Previous applicants had tried to fight honorably, accepting heavy losses while inflicting what damage they could. Jake took a different approach entirely. He ordered his ships to scatter and avoid direct combat. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy fleet, he targeted their supply ships and communication relays. He used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and then disappearing before the enemy could respond. When the enemy tried to attack the planet directly, Jake's ships appeared behind them, forcing them to choose between completing their attack and defending themselves. The confusion allowed Jake's forces to inflict serious damage while taking minimal losses. The simulation ended with Jake's fleet technically defeated, but the enemy so badly damaged that they could no longer continue their attack. Speaker Vexani's purple glow dimmed as she looked at Jake around the circle. The other council members seemed to shift uncomfortably in their massive chairs. The excitement that had filled the chamber after Jake's victories was gone, replaced by something that felt almost like fear. Human Jake Morrison, Vexani began, her voice softer than before. Before we begin the trial of spirit, you must understand the truth about these tests. The truth about why we really brought you here." Jake remained standing in the center of the circle, but he could feel that something had changed. The aliens no longer looked like judges evaluating his performance. They looked like people who were about to confess something terrible. Thousands of years ago, Vexani continued, the Galactic Council was formed to bring peace and order to the galaxy. 12 species, each powerful in their own way, came together to create a civilization that would last forever. The metal tree being took over the story, its voice like wind through leaves. We succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. Wars ended. Hunger disappeared. Disease became a thing of the past. We created a perfect society. But perfection, said the crystal creature, came with a price we did not expect. Jake waited, sensing that these ancient beings were struggling to explain something they had never put into words before. The shadow being with red eyes spoke next. We became comfortable, then we became lazy, then we became afraid. Afraid of what? Jake asked. Afraid of change, Vexani replied. For 3,000 years, nothing new has entered our society. No new ideas, no new ways of thinking, no new solutions to problems we had not already solved long ago. Zektar appeared at the edge of the chamber, his scales a nervous gray color. Tell him about the surveys, he said quietly. Vexani's glow flickered. 5 years ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected something approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge. Something our instruments cannot fully understand or identify. Jake felt his stomach drop. Another alien species? We do not know, said the insect being with crystal wings. Our scans show patterns, structures, intelligence, but unlike anything we have encountered before. The approaching entities seem to operate by rules we do not understand, added the metal tree. Our computer models cannot predict their behavior. Our scientists cannot explain their technology. Our military leaders cannot develop strategies to deal with them. Jake looked around the circle of ancient faces. How long before they arrive? Perhaps 50 years, perhaps less, Vexani said. Time moves differently for beings like these. We realized, said the shadow being, that our perfect society had made us weak. We had eliminated challenge, conflict, and struggle. In doing so, we had eliminated our ability to grow and adapt. The crystal creature's voice rang like a bell. We tried to develop new approaches, new technologies, new strategies, but we could not. We had become too set in our ways, too afraid to take risks. Jake began to understand. So you started testing new species, hoping they would bring fresh ideas. Yes, Vexani said. But every species we tested tried to be like us. They studied our methods, copied our solutions, and attempted to prove they could think like we do. They all failed, said the metal tree, because they were trying to become something they were not instead of offering something new, the insect. Being leaned forward. Until today, until you. Jake felt the weight of their words settling on his shoulders. You don't want me to prove that humans can be like you. You want me to prove that humans can be different from you. We need you to be different, Vexani said, her voice almost pleading. We need your species to bring something we have lost. The ability to face the unknown without fear. But there's still the trial of spirit, Jake said. Yes, said the shadow being. The most important test of all. The chamber began to change. Around them, the walls shifted and rearranged themselves, creating a smaller, more intimate space. The massive chairs moved closer together, bringing the council members down to Jake's level. The trial of spirit is not a test we give to you, Vexani explained. It is a choice we ask you to make. What kind of choice? We could admit your species to the council right now, said the crystal creature. Give you all our knowledge, all our technology, all our power. Make humanity one of the ruling species of the galaxy. Jake's heart raced. Everything humanity had dreamed of was being offered to him freely. But, continued the metal tree, if we do that, humanity will become like us, comfortable, safe, and eventually just as afraid of change as we are. The other choice, said the insect being, is harder. Vexani's glow brightened slightly. we could make humanity our partners instead of our subjects. Give you access to our resources and knowledge, but ask you to help us remember how to take risks, how to try new things, how to face unknown dangers. It would mean that when the entities from beyond the galaxy arrive, said the shadow being, humans would be on the front lines of first contact. Jake understood now why this was called the trial of spirit. It was not about proving his worthiness to join an elite club. It was about choosing what kind of future humanity would have. If we become council members like you, Jake said slowly, humanity gets safety and power, but we might lose what makes us human. Yes, Vexani said. And if we become your partners, we keep our humanity, but we face the greatest danger in galactic history. Yes, said the crystal creature. Jake thought about his crew back on Earth Station Alpha, Lisa with her fierce loyalty, Sam with his endless curiosity, Amy with her determination to stay connected no matter how far apart they were. He thought about the billions of humans on Earth and the colonies, all dreaming of the day they would walk among the stars as equals. What do you think humans would choose? Jake asked. We do not know, said the metal tree. That is why this choice must be yours. Jake looked around the circle of ancient faces. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, but they were asking him, a human who had been in space for only 3 weeks, to help them find their courage again. Can I ask you something? Jake said. Of course, Vexani replied. When you first contacted Earth, your message made it sound like you expected us to fail. But you brought me here hoping we would succeed. Why did you seem so sure we would fail? The council members looked at each other, finally the shadow being answered. Because we were afraid that if you succeeded, we would have to change. And change is the thing we fear most. But you're asking for our help anyway. Because, said Vexani, the alternative is worse than our fear. If the approaching entities are hostile, our current society will not survive. We need to become strong. Again, even if it means becoming uncomfortable again. Jake made his decision. Humans don't like being comfortable for too long anyway, he said with a slight smile. We get restless. We start looking for new challenges, new frontiers, new problems to solve. Then you choose partnership? Asked the crystal creature. I choose partnership, Jake said firmly. But not just between humanity and the council. I choose partnership between all the species in the galaxy and any new ones we meet, including whatever is coming from beyond the stars. The chamber fell silent. Jake could see surprise on every alien face around him. You would try to make allies of the approaching entities? Asked the insect being. I would try to understand them first, Jake replied. Maybe they're not coming to conquer. Maybe they're just looking for a place to belong, like humanity was. And if they are hostile? Asked the metal tree. Then we face them together, Jake said. All of us, using every different way of thinking and fighting that our species have developed. That's what humans do when we're threatened. We find allies, we adapt, and we never give up. Vexani's glow brightened until it filled the chamber with warm light. Human Jake Morrison, you have passed the trial of spirit. But more than that, you have reminded us of something we had forgotten. What's that? Jake asked. The purpose of strength is not to avoid challenges, she said. It is to face them with hope instead of fear. For the first time since Jake had arrived at the station, the council members looked like they believed in something again. The vote was quick and unanimous. All 12 council members agreed to offer humanity full partnership status in what they decided to call the Galactic Renewal Project. Jake stood in the center of the chamber as ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years formally asked his species for help. The partnership agreement will give humanity access to all council knowledge and technology, Speaker Vexani explained, her purple glow steady and bright. In return, human representatives will work with each member species to develop new approaches to the challenges we face. What kind of challenges? Jake asked. The crystal creature answered with its bell-like voice. Everything. Scientific research, military strategy, social organization, exploration techniques. We have done things the same way for so long that we cannot see other possibilities. Your species will essentially become teachers, added the metal tree being, but also students. You will learn from us while helping us learn from you. Jake felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. How many humans will this involve? As many as wish to participate, said the insect being with crystal wings. We envision exchange programs, joint research projects, mixed crews on exploration vessels, shared colonies on new worlds. And when the entities arrive from beyond the galaxy? Jake asked. The shadow being with red eyes leaned forward. Humans will be part of the first contact team. Your perspectives may help us understand beings that our traditional methods cannot comprehend. Sektar appeared at Jake's side, his scales now a bright blue color that Jake had not seen before. Human Captain, I am authorized to escort you back to your ship. You have communications to make. Jake realized that his crewback at Earth Station Alpha had been waiting for weeks to hear from him. They would be worried sick, not knowing if he was alive or dead. Before I go, Jake said to the council, I want you to know something. Humans have a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. What we've learned today is that sometimes it takes a newcomer to remind a village how to grow. The council members made various sounds that Jake interpreted as agreement or amusement. As he left the chamber, he heard them beginning to discuss plans in their different languages. For the first time since his arrival, they sounded excited about the future. Back aboard the Aurora, Jake activated the communication system and sent a message toward Earth. The signal would take several hours to reach Earth Station Alpha. But he knew Lisa and the others would be monitoring constantly. Earth Station Alpha, this is Captain Morrison aboard the Aurora. Mission status, successful beyond all expectations. Humanity has been offered full partnership with the Galactic Council. I repeat, we are not just joining them. They are asking us to help them become something better. Detailed report to follow. Morrison out. Jake spent the next several hours recording everything that had happened. The trials, the revelation about the Council's stagnation, the approaching unknown entities, and the choice he had made on behalf of all humanity. When he finished, Jake sat back in his pilot's chair and looked out at the massive council station. Ships were already arriving from all 12 member species. Vexani had told him that the council was calling emergency sessions to begin planning the renewal project immediately. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. The screen showed Commander Lisa Brooks, her face tired but relieved. Jake, thank God you're alive. We've been going crazy here waiting for word. Did you really say we're partners with the aliens now? It's true, Lisa, but it's more complicated than that. These aliens need our help more than we need theirs. Dr. Sam Carter appeared on screen beside Lisa, his eyes wide with excitement. Jake, they're offering to share all their knowledge with us? All of it? Everything, Sam, but in return we have to help them remember how to take risks and try new things. They've become too comfortable, too afraid to change. Lieutenant Amy Phillips joined them on screen. Captain, when are you coming? Home? Soon, Amy, but I won't be staying long. They want to start the exchange programs immediately. Some of you might be coming back here with me. Count me in, Sam said immediately. The chance to work with alien scientists? This is the greatest opportunity in human history. What about the threat you mentioned? Lisa asked. These unknown entities coming from outside the galaxy? Jake's expression grew serious. That's the real test, Lisa. Everything we do from now on is preparation for first contact with something completely unknown. The Council's advanced technology couldn't understand these beings. They're hoping human adaptability can make the difference. No pressure at all, Lisa said with a slight smile, over the next few days. Jake worked with Council representatives to establish the basic framework for human-alien cooperation. The first exchange would bring 50 humans to the Council station to work directly with alien scientists and military leaders. In return, alien advisors would travel to Earth to observe human problem-solving methods firsthand. Dr. Carter would lead the scientific team. Commander Brooks would head the military cooperation unit. Lieutenant Phillips would manage communications between the various species and Earth. What about you, Jake? Lisa asked during one of their planning sessions. What's your role in all this? I'm going to be the human liaison to the council, Jake replied. Basically, I'm humanity's voice in all the big decisions that get made. That's a huge responsibility, Sam said. It is. But I keep thinking about something. When I first arrived here, all the council members looked defeated. They had given up hope that anything could change. Now they're working around the clock on new projects. They're excited again. You did that, Amy said. We did that, Jake corrected. By being ourselves. By showing them that it's okay to take risks, to try new approaches, to fail and try again. The formal partnership ceremony took place a week later in the council chambers. Jake stood with representatives from all 12 alien species as they signed agreements that would reshape galactic civilization. Today marks the beginning of a new era, Speaker Vexani announced to the assembled crowd. For too long, we have valued stability over growth, safety over discovery, certainty over possibility. The humans have reminded us that strength comes not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them with courage and hope. After the ceremony, Jake prepared for his return trip to Earth. The Aurora's cargo bay was filled with alien technology and scientific equipment that would begin humanity's introduction to galactic civilization. But the most important cargo was intangible. Hope. As the Aurora departed the council station, Jake looked back at the massive structure one more time. Ships from 12 different species were arriving and departing constantly now, carrying scientists, soldiers, and diplomats who were working together for the first time in millennia. The journey back to Earth gave Jake time to think about everything that had changed. Humanity had achieved their dream of joining galactic civilization, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of becoming junior members of an established order, they had become catalysts for creating something entirely new. The unknown entities from beyond the galaxy were still approaching. In perhaps 50 years, they would arrive at the galaxy's edge and make contact. When that day came, they would not face 12 tired, ancient species clinging to old ways of thinking. They would encounter a renewed alliance of civilizations that had remembered how to grow, how to adapt, and how to hope. Jake opened a communication channel to Earth Station Alpha. Lisa, Sam, Amy, this is Jake. I'm 2 days out from the station. Begin preparations for the first exchange mission and get ready for the biggest adventure in human history. Copy that, Captain, came Lisa's voice over the radio. We'll be ready. As Earth grew larger in the Aurora's view screen, Jake smiled. The aliens had asked if humans were worthy to stand among them. The answer had turned out to be more complex than anyone expected. Humans were not worthy to stand among the council as it had been, but they were exactly what the council needed to become what it could be. And when the mysterious entities finally arrived from the darkness between galaxies, they would find not a stagnant empire afraid of change, but a dynamic alliance ready to welcome new voices, new ideas, and new possibilities. The greatest test was still ahead. But for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was ready to face the unknown together.